Hello, everyone. Today we are going to look at a very interesting comic strip by Japanese commando Nobuo Kurite, who was a prisoner of war in the Soviet Union. He expressed his impressions and memories in drawings. But before that, a little prehistory. At the end of World War II, Japan, like Germany, lost. In 1945, the 6 million Japanese army, stationed in the occupied territories of Manchuria, consisted of half of the regular units and formations and volunteers, and half of civilians. Soon after unconditional surrender, accepted under the Potsdam Declaration, this army was surrounded by Soviet troops and about 600,000 captured Japanese soldiers and officers. They were taken to thousands of concentration camps on the territory stretching from Kamchatka in the east, over the Ural Mountains to the European part of the USSR in the west and Yenisei basin in the north. Also, some of them were transported to distribution camps in Manchuria and North Korea. Convoy Japanese prisoners of war were placed in concentration camps in the Soviet Union, forced to perform unsustainable labor. It is believed that, for the most part, the Japanese became prisoners of the Siberian concentration camps. The history includes not only the loud victories of the Japanese army at the beginning of hostilities, but also all the horrors to be experienced after the defeat, which the author would like to tell the younger generation who did not know wars, so that it would not happen again. The author decided to paint these pictures in place of his battle friends, who were never destined to set foot on their native soil again. Further narration will be done from the author's point of view. Part 1. Going to Soviet Union.
Meeting defeat and then rough life of prisoner of war in foreign country. It gives me much pain to tell about this all again. It appears that us, youngsters of Taisho era, are the only ones to befell such grim destiny. Flat days of the prisoner of war started to go by. Lavatory in the open air, bordered by straw mats, has also been a place for chat of comrades in arms, discussing important matters, like, I have been reading my fortune today and it fell to me to go back home soon, and so on. Sometime later we went north by rail from Sino-Japanese to Hungnam. 24 men were quartered in one room of half-ruined worker apartments, and it was so hot so additional heating became unnecessary. You couldn't find a place on a floor to lay down if you go out in the night. In the end of December, when it was bitter cold, lack of vegetables and scanty dreary meal induced moon blindness. As a result, my comrades in arms were blundering against each other going out in the night. Every night we would take out a barrel full of shit to flush it down the big sink in the yard. How entertaining! We had to walk those who were induced by moon blindness to lavatory. So we had to be on duty every night, turning hourly. It was minus 20 degrees outside, and it was not easy job. I was sniffling looking at beautiful moon, and frozen tears were on my cheeks. Whenever the weather was fine, we walked outside for physical exercises. Vigorous ones played baseball with glove and bat. From North Korean port of Hungnam we went to small Soviet port of Potsdam. After that we had some forced march along longest 20 kilometers fields. It was pretty hard for some of us, and mud was all over them. We camped near one village during 2 weeks. Thanks to continuous rains the tents went soggy. Blankets on the floor damping our bodies and souls. Many of us have ruined their health those days. After the rain stopped, we took shots with horse syringes. Man, that hurt. It was an experience that took my breath away. 40 men were hustled into 18-ton freight car, and the doors were shut tight from outside. Every other car was secured by machine gunners. 50-car train departed west. A 50-car train with 1,500 Japanese soldiers on board made the long journey along the Trans-Siberian Railway. We had a stop at Lake Baikal. The barrel was filled with lake fresh water. We used the same water for drinking and washing. What luxury! With familiar movements, the officer twisted crumbled tobacco into a strip of newspaper. Then slobbered it down and taped the ends. He said, "Here, Japanese, try this." Our train, full up with passengers, moved along Trans-Siberian main line across Urals to Europe. The longest 30 days travel was over when we arrived at the small Ukrainian town of Slavyansk. A cute bare-feet little girl lead goatlings along the field, planted with sunflowers.
Part 2. Hard work.
Work in a 4-member crew is terrible, for the production rate remains the same, but 2 must work as loader and carrier. He that will not work shall not eat. We immediately got down to drawing stones from a quarry. I worked with a gavelock on a block of stone with daily production rate of 1 square meter per man. The broken stones were loaded on a stretcher, then dragged uphill to build a kind of fortress wall. I gained a lot of experience as I was doing construction work for the first time. A Russian soldier watched us all day, occasionally dozing or loudly reading a book aloud. What was the use of telling him I had to go to the bathroom? He didn't understand the words anyway. Afraid that I might run away, he always watched what I was doing while standing next to me. And because of that, I was never able to do the process. I tried a Slavic braid once. The young girl was able to do it with ease, but all I could do was break a sweat. "That's because you can't twist your back," the girl said. "Here, Japanese, have a potato." Girls are very kind in every country. They say that Ukraine has very fertile grounds, that's why they plant so many potatoes. "Goodbye, young lady, job over." Home we were saying goodbyes is Russian. We end up our field work with just learned words: "Do svidania," goodbye; "Spasibo," thank you. Red dusk truly is beautiful. The skies of East Europe differ from the skies of Manchuria. In the northern territory of gigantic Eurasian continent lies Japanese prisoners of war camp. Frost at -30 is not a rarity. This picture is pretty, but that day we were caught in a snowstorm and we had to work in black darkness. We couldn't see anything at arm's length. Many were harmed that day. Death stared at my face when I fell off the steep. My friends supported me while I was coming back. My first thought after coming to myself was, is it here I am destined to die? If you always work at temperature of 15 C, you start to get used to it. However, there were lots of men, knocked down by frost. The war was over and dying here. So stupid. We called them, but none of them came back. Winter temperature in East Europe can be as low as -25 C and -30 C, and for natives of Japan, life under the tents did not come easy. Some days in a morning we were discovering that some of our friends were stiffed with cold. Such a wide river, that's what I thought. It was Dnieper. Loaded into trucks, we were taken far away. My and my friend's job was to break ice on the river. One wrong step and you could sideslip and fall. That day death stared at my face again. By the Soviet doctor's order we were taken out for bathing. Bathing at -25 C? I tell you, this is not a joke. We could easily die by hypothermia if we weren't such young and healthy. We thawed snow in iron barrels for each could wash in the frost with 1 bowl of water. Knife cuts bread. Black bread. It was the best hated liability. Funereal silence. All eyes focused on knife's cutting edge. Room half under the surface, lighted by thin self-made candle. Female sergeant of Soviet Army. Female soldier of this gender-blind country was a surprise for us. Japanese of Auld Lang Syne patriarchate were shocked. Frost-resistant, characterful, tenderless and amazingly beautiful eyes were magnificent. Most of the doctors were female. There goes gorgeous bosomy Dr. Lieutenant with proudly straightened shoulders. This multinational country doesn't have any ignoration to other nations. So every Japanese prisoner was inspected separately just like any other person. The potatoes were always sorted in the storehouse. This job was for those who couldn't take any more of regular hard work and those that were sick. You could hook iron bucket with electricity to boil and eat some potatoes. It was a good job. Clean well. One she officer was very dreadful. Though it was fun. In a corridor, enclosed with glass, you had to scratch off the dirt and then clean the floor accurately. Spot checks did not let us work scampy. Once I have been inspected by female doctor and I looked shameful. She worried about mostly reduced soldiers, forcing them to go to bed, go to sleep now. Her voice was very kind. Tears flow couldn't be stopped. I cried all day long. It's awful when someone dies before your eyes. I promised to tell his mother everything if only I will come back home myself. May the ashes rest peacefully in Outland. No matter if you are German or Hungarian, it's all the same. Funeral. This could be your funeral tomorrow.
Part 3. World is full of friends.
In the end of June 1947 we were transferred from camp in Slavyansk to Magyar camp. We were surprised by Hungarian soldier that met us, Japanese soldiers, with Patriot March. Seems that every nationality has its individual peculiarities. Hungary was calling Vangria in Russian. Very cheerful, vivacious people. They work scampi because they hate Soviet Union. They call themselves Japanophiles and they know more about Japan than ourselves. Talking of optimism, Slavs are unrivaled. Once one starts singing, another one joins and there goes duet. 3 or 4 more come by and there goes chorus. I think that Russians are mostly musically gifted nation in the world. They will never say stop even if a prisoner will start singing. Mikado, Geisha, Fujiyama, Judo, Harakiri. Slavs know these words. But when it comes to sumo no one knows the rules. They thank you even when they lose. I've made friends with a pilot, Captain Pokrovsky. Trusty to Japanese honesty, he was giving me his valuables and storehouse keys on his way to work. Where is he now? Russian army consists of soldiers of more than 120 nationalities speaking different languages. Mongolians understand Russian, but speak rudely. However, their faces and constitutions similar to Japanese, what tends to interaction. Besides, they are great riders. I fell off the horse a few times. Children of any country are sweet and spontaneous. And here's a lively kid who went skating to school and shouted, "Hello, Japan," he skated past. Asked about the war, "Nah, we're not going to war." Nice. Kids speak Russian very uncomplicated. A very young soldier wraps his legs in the snow-wet footwear. I gave him 1 pair of socks, as I usually wore 2 at once. I asked him how old he was. I got the answer 14. The soldier was rubbing his nearly frostbitten feet with both hands, and there were tears in his blue eyes. He must have been thinking of his mother. Russian children are such naive and inartificial, and they don't pay any attention to racial differences. I was very lucky I could play with them. I have also learned many new Russian words. I adore children. Everybody took part in sparring match: Russia, Czechia, Poland, Germany, Italy, and Japan. I tried really hard and only in the end I found out that everybody have already seemed to give up to me, the shortest one. There are such good men in the world. The bed was pretty antiquated and wobbled a lot. Besides, it was so tight, so one soldier always kept falling off of it. I don't know what kind of dreams he had. Once I fell off myself and lost my chance to laugh at somebody else. Our foreman was often called to his office by the major for failing to meet his workload in his section. Our foreman did not understand Russian, so he had to listen to the major's scolding with a detached face. For that and for us he had to serve time and again in the punishment cell.
Part 4. Let's stick together.
Every country in the world has such a position as administrator. And among the German soldiers there was a wacky old man who was in charge of distributing work among the Japanese soldiers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no matter how many times you count you will make mistake anyway. Perhaps because of Japanese soldiers, forming 4 columns. Most of young Russian soldiers were poor mathematicians, and they were spending a lot of time on calculations. Men and women took part in rebuilding the city after the end of World War II. Valiant women were handling even the most dangerous jobs. It was hard to imagine something like this in Japan those days. Some of Russian women were even attracted to Japanese soldiers. Those were beautiful moments. Installation work. It was a very dangerous kind of work and we had to wear work shoes. Evil fate assigned 10 of us to this job, to run over the top wooden rung of the metal frame and pour cement out of the cart. This kind of job must have been done by efforts. We had to unload coal from freighter car. Being urged by faster, we shoveled without cease. City rebuilding plan budgeted 5 years, so even young ladies were hard at this work. Labor graced men and women. Few minutes before evening parade we were stealing. We were stealing light bulbs to put some light to our camp. We were hungry and we poked a hole in bag with bamboo stick to take some rice. We couldn't take away a lot though. I think it's a train wheel. If you get close when casting a thing like that, it can make your eyes hurt because of the hot air. we were working with a pneumatic hammer to level the surface of the wheel. The splinter caught my eye. I couldn't see and the German doctor operated on me. I spent next 2 months in Drossakowka Hospital. I was blind for 2 weeks. I recognized importance of seeing. I made friends with kind-hearted comrades in arms and young German soldier. After I could see again, I patronaged weak patients to thank for help given to me. Every day was a joy of helping them. I didn't like night shifts. I was very sleepy. The night shifts were rotating. Production rates were high and many soldiers were traumatized while rushes. Sometimes people even died. The job of carrying things out of the warehouse consisted of carrying exceptionally heavy things, so it was impossible to cope with it without having the physical strength. The Japanese soldiers worked so well that the Russian doctor was beginning to worry about it. The Japanese loved to eat rice, so we were given this food, which was worth its weight in gold in Russia at the time. However, we were given rather little rice, so sometimes a German soldier, pretending to be Japanese, came to get rice. But he got in a lot of trouble for that. We bathed twice or once a month. It was hard to sit, we were so thin so bones clashed with hard surface of bank. Cheerful Japanese prisoners of war have organized ping-pong tournament with Germans. Perhaps because of strange way to hold racket, Japanese have easily won. Wherever you are you can meet envy at your plate. Japanese dishes look larger and Germans looked carving knives at them. They eat bread and pottage. Japanese eat boiled rice, homemade miso soup and other dishes.
Part 5. Going home soon.
All night and into the morning, with a friend who graduated from music school, we write notes from memory. In the morning, we give the German orchestra sheet music, which they then use to play Japanese works for us. We don't know their language and can't speak the language of words, but we can speak the language of music. Truly, the world of music knows no borders. Concerto at last. German orchestra plays music of distant Japan. Japanese soldiers awkwardly perform traditional dance to native music. The joy of upcoming return grows. The departure date is already known. Every reunion means parting. I remember a girl who felt a great tug at parting. Poor Natasha, who whispered bitter farewell. What do you do now? What happened to you? Goodbyes is different languages. I think that world really is one and all the people are alike. We all cry, saying goodbyes. We don't know the language, but raise your hand and wave and saying is unnecessary. All this time in Russian prison camp was well spent. I think. Unlike that train that brought us to Russia, this train had doors open wide. In this point of world, in Siberia, the sun doesn't go down completely and sky is clear even in the night. They call it white nights. Along Siberian Railroad we roll and roll far to the east. It's hard to force yourself to use box toilet in the train, so we come out at every stop, to sit like birds on rails leaving gifts. The moment we came off the train in Khabarovsk, we were attacked by dreadful representatives of Japanese Communist Party who started to agitate for it. They were so strange. Abe-san, who was in charge, tried to reason with these Communist Party guys. They used to visit us during those 2 weeks that we spent in Nakaka, teaching us labor songs, but we didn't lose. Even conquered country has rivers and hills. Here they are, Japanese islands, bosomed in trees, Maizuru port. This all brought tears to my eyes. Someone shouted hooray! Some of the soldiers haven't been home for 10 years. We stepped on homeland, we listened to creaks of pier boards, we listened to the sound of our own steps. Meeting party shouted loud hoorays, thanked us, shook hands with us. Japanese Red Cross nurses shined bright with their white clothes. The first thing we did was to go to the bathhouse with our comrades in arms. Talking in a loud voice, it felt so good, never felt so good in my life. From head to toe we were treated with the DDT medicine, and finally we felt like real Japanese. Tatami. We tumbled and rolled on them, squeezed our cheeks up against them, oh dear mother, like tatami. I am so happy. Only then I realized that I am finally home. Discharge's train arrived at Kusanagi Station, Shizuoka Prefecture. Young brother came up at run and called my name and watched me, grown stout, leaving the train. My father came up at run to me too. Is that you, Nobuo? Yes, I saluted him. He could only breeze out, I'm so glad. It is known that by the end of World War II in 1945 about 6 million Japanese remained abroad. They all had to return to Japan as soon as possible. This procedure is called repatriation. In September 1945, 10 ports of Japan all over the country have been assigned to repatriation duty. They were Maizuru, Uraga, Kure, and others. By the end of the war, one of the home gates for homecomers was Maizuru City. Since October 7, 1945, during 13 years, Unzanmaru homecomer ships have taken to Japan 66,000 people and 16,000 dead. Memorial Hall and Memorial Park of Maizuru City stores numerous authentic documents about that time. It's me and my friend on third day after repatriation. Only black and white photos were available those days. I put some color later. I am on the right, so young, healthy and plumpy, so it's hard to believe that I just came back from there. It appears that thoughts about successful return were supporting me. My friend died in a few years.
I recently found out that the comic book hero is no longer with us. He passed away in 2021. But his son Masato Kiyoshi still writes about his father almost every day on social media. It was important to him that the drawings of a simple Japanese soldier be remembered and appreciated not only at UNESCO and his hometown of Maizuru in Kyoto Prefecture, but all over the world. Thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and comment.